When I was growing up, I definitely played a lot of games that I shouldn't have. It wasn't a negligence on my parents' side or anything of that nature, it was just that they understood that video games, like any other media, is just art. As long as I was mature enough to understand the difference between the actions in-game and those outside of it, I was allowed to play most titles. And in 2004, there were two games that grabbed my attention more than anything else on the market. Microsoft's Halo 2 and Valve's Half-Life 2. Yet if I had to choose a game that impressed me the most at that time, Half-Life 2 would come out on top every single time. It could be the rose-tinted glasses from my childhood, but even in today's ever-increasing landscape of AAA titles, Half-Life 2 and its subsequent episodes left a far bigger impact than I realized. From its fully fleshed out dystopian setting to the wonderful and vibrant cast of characters that were brought to life by a facial animation system that was unrivaled in its day. Not to mention the seamless progression of levels that made the journey feel as much yours as it was Gordon Freeman's. Slap on a superb physics engine and an evolution of the gameplay set from the original title, and you had a recipe for success. After the release of Half-Life 2, Valve had the idea of experimenting with the episodic format of video game releases. The idea was to continue the Half-Life story in between the series' main titles, sort of like creating a mini-series in between your favorite film franchise. At the time, this was a fantastic idea and fans were overjoyed to have more Half-Life in their lives, myself included. Once both episodes were released and fans were treated to a heart-wrenching cliffhanger, the wait for episode 3 was on. And so we waited. And waited. And waited some more. Other than vague responses from Valve CEO Gabe Newell or half-fulfilled remarks over the years, Half-Life 2 Episode 3 was to be no more. We tried over and over to rationalize our fears as the years went on. Concept art and vague details would crop up over the years, but nothing was substantial. Comparing a game's long development cycle to that of Half-Life 3 was both hilarious and disheartening, pretty much because it was a hard truth to swallow. Why was the question on everybody's mind? Why was it taking so long? I mean, there had to be a reason for it. As the years went on, we all sort of accepted it. Episode 2's 10th anniversary is fast approaching, and it's been even longer since Half-Life 2's release. A large portion of the team involved in Half-Life 2's production have left the company, and Valve themselves don't seem interested in continuing the franchise that made them a powerhouse that they are today. I'm not here to speculate on Valve's intentions, however. I don't know their practices, and I know even less of what goes on inside their company. I do know, though, what feeling pushed aside feels like, which is what every Half-Life fan has felt for nearly a decade at this point. As a creator, I know I have no obligation to listen to the demands of my audience. It's my property, and I will do with it what I wish. Yet, if I had a popular series but decided it wasn't worth my time, what would be the lesser of two evils? Being honest and open with my community, or being silent and letting their imaginations run wild? The reason I say all of this is because former Half-Life writer Marc Laidlaw released something important. Something that fans have been waiting for years on end. The ending of the Half-Life 2 storyline. In a blog post written in distorted details to avoid legal issues, Marc describes what the plot of episode 3 could have been. I say could have been because Valve storylines, like many games, typically change alongside different gameplay mechanics or level design changes, meaning what Marc had described could not have been what we played in the final version of the game. Yet it's close enough to what we've seen from concept art and details over the years to be a solid foundation for our imaginations to fill in the blanks. The post describes, from beginning to end, what would have happened to the characters we've grown attached to and waited to see for nearly a decade. Yet, if you're a big fan like I am, I'm not going to read it out loud for you or give you details here. I want you to read it for yourself. I want you to experience the conflicting emotions that I had currently circulating through my head as I wrote this script. On the one hand, I feel relieved, as if this giant boulder of anticipation was finally lifted off my shoulders. To have the lead writer detail what would have happened to Gordon Freeman, Alex Vance, Judith Mossman, Dr. Kleiner, the Resistance, the Borealis, the Combine, and the reactions to Eli Vance's tragic death is oddly peaceful. On the other hand, I felt absolutely gutted, because I know, whether officially confirmed or not, that Episode 3, and most likely Half-Life 3, are dead. That the storyline Marc and the creative team had will most likely never come to fruition. And even if Valve were to release something, it would most likely be radically different. However, there's an issue of expectation that will always be mentioned. That fans have waited for so long that no amount of gameplay innovation, plot twists, or satisfying conclusions will fill that void. Yet, if Square Enix's Final Fantasy XV goes to show, it's that releasing something is better than not releasing it at all. Final Fantasy 15, despite taking over 10 years of development time, was still enjoyed by many fans. And for Half-Life fans, as the years went on, anything would have been sufficient. An animated film, a graphic novel series, an audiobook, anything to satisfy the need to see the conclusion of this series that was, in the fans' eyes, needlessly abandoned. Valve took the perfectionist approach, that the game will be ready when they believe it will be as perfect as fans wanted it to be. As a perfectionist myself, I can say that that was the worst decision they could have made. When you slave over what others will say about your work, you stagnate your creativity. You start to doubt yourself, you delay your work more and more until eventually, you leave it on the cutting room floor. I'm not too sure if Marc really understands the importance of what he just did. Marc Laidlaw helped put a spark back into a community that's been drifting for years. Fan works are already being made, and the community, while most likely saddened, can finally see where the story they invested in all those years ago finally went. Whether or not Episode 3 or Half-Life 3 will be revealed to the world, we may never know. Who knows, maybe a talented group will just take Marc's plot and make something great out of it. I mean, crazier things have been done. One thing is for sure though, from myself and the Half-Life community, thank you, Marc Laidlaw.